There's a group that didn't debut under a major legacy label, didn't have a pre-built fan base handed to them, and spent their earliest days being told they weren't ready, yet somehow ended up selling out stadiums across 5 continents, breaking records that even industry veterans couldn't predict, and building one of the most loyal fan bases in the world. That group is Stray Kids, and the story of how they got here isn't the usual K-pop fairy tale. No overnight virality, no one lucky moment. What happened with Stray Kids is something far more calculated and far more human. They wrote their own songs from the beginning, fought for creative control before most groups even knew what that meant, and made music that felt less like a product and more like a document of real experience. The question worth asking isn't just why they're famous, it's why they're still growing and accelerating years after their debut, at a time when most groups plateau. What does Stray Kids have that others don't? The answer might surprise you, because it has almost nothing to do with luck. Here are 10 reasons why Stray Kids is getting bigger, and they're more fascinating than you think. Number 10. The factory they built themselves. Within K-pop, the standard model has always been straightforward. A management company writes the songs, a choreography team designs the moves, a creative director shapes the image, and the artists execute what they're given. That model works. It's efficient, it's commercially reliable, and it has produced some of the biggest acts in music history. Stray Kids chose a different model, not as a marketing angle, not as a narrative strategy cooked up in a boardroom, but because the group itself contained the machinery to do it differently. At the center of that machinery is 3RACHA. 3RACHA is the producing subunit within Stray Kids, composed of 3 members, Bangchan, Changbin, and Han. Before Stray Kids even had an official debut, before they had a fandom name, before they had a single fan, these 3 were already making and uploading music together on SoundCloud under that name, as early as 2017. The tracks were raw, clearly unpolished in places, but undeniably theirs. This wasn't a PR move. There was no press release, no label announcement, no coordinated rollout. They were making music because they wanted to make music. That instinct to create independently of commercial expectation would eventually become the defining engine of Stray Kids' entire career. When JYP Entertainment formed Stray Kids through their 2017 Mnet survival reality show, the creative premise was unusual by industry standards. The group would have significant involvement in their own music production. That's not a minor distinction. In an industry where creative control is typically held tightly by labels and their production teams, giving a debuting group room to shape their own sound is a genuine structural risk. JYP took that risk, and the result was a discography that sounds like it was made by people who actually have something to say, because in large part it was. Bang Chan, born Chan Christopher Bang in Sydney, Australia, had trained at JYP for approximately 7 years before Stray Kids debuted on March 25, 2018. That training period gave him a thorough, working understanding of music production, arrangement, and the structural mechanics of the Korean music industry. By the time the group debuted, he wasn't approaching production as a side interest. He was approaching it as a craft he had spent the better part of a decade developing. His role as the group's leader and primary creative anchor isn't ceremonial, it's functional. He is actively involved in producing, shaping sonic references, and guiding the direction of nearly every project Stray Kids releases, which is verifiable through the production credits listed across their official discography. Han, whose full name is Han Ji-sung, grew up in Malaysia before relocating to Korea for his trainee period. His songwriting carries a specificity that is difficult to manufacture. He writes with a level of self-examination that is uncommon in idol music, not because idol music can't be introspective, but because very few groups are given the freedom or take the initiative to be that honest on record. Han's lyrics frequently engage with anxiety, creative pressure, the fear of failure, and the complicated emotional weight of being young and under sustained public scrutiny. These are not themes invented for relatability. They are documented across interviews, behind-the-scenes content, and in the songs themselves, which routinely reference very specific emotional states rather than broad sentiment designed to appeal to the widest possible demographic. Changbin, the group's main rapper, contributes to production with an intensity that directly mirrors his performance style. His vocal delivery is among the most technically dense in K-pop, fast, rhythmically precise, and lyrically loaded, and that density isn't incidental to the production. The tracks are structured to accommodate and amplify that approach. When a group's production and performance are developed by the same people, there is a coherence to the final result that listeners register even when they can't quite articulate why. The music doesn't feel like a performance laid over a backing track. It feels like a unified statement because the people performing it were in the room when it was built. The practical evidence of what this model produces is measurable. Stray Kids' second studio album, No Easy, released in August 2021, sold over 1 million copies in its first week of release, placing them among the relatively small number of K-pop acts to achieve that milestone at the time. Their EP, Ordinary, released in March 2022, debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, making Stray Kids the fourth K-pop act in history to reach that position. Their fourth studio album, 5 Star, released in June 2023, also debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, and with that, Stray Kids became only the second K-pop act to have multiple studio albums debut at the top of that chart. That consistency of commercial performance across multiple releases is not coincidental. It reflects the existence of a stable, deepening audience relationship, one built, in large part, because the product reliably sounds like it was made by the people whose names are on it. That's an unusual thing to have to point out, but in a genre where external production and ghostwriting are common and largely accepted, a group that actively creates the bulk of its own catalog occupies a categorically different position in the listener's experience of the music. Stays, the official fandom name, formally adopted in 2018, aren't only fans of Stray Kids as performers. A large portion of them are fans of Stray Kids as artists, and that distinction matters enormously for long-term loyalty and sustained growth. Fans of performers follow whoever's on stage. Fans of artists follow a creative perspective, and creative perspectives don't expire on a comeback cycle. The Three Racha SoundCloud catalog, which predates the group's official debut, remains publicly available and is regularly discovered by newer fans, tracing the group's origins. The fact that this early material exists, unfiltered, self-initiated, created without any commercial incentive, functions as a verifiable record of intent. It demonstrates that the creative drive wasn't assigned by a label, it was already operating before the label was involved. Most groups are built around a concept. Stray Kids built their concept around themselves, and then backed it up with a discography substantial enough to make that claim hold up under scrutiny. That's a specific kind of credibility that takes years to earn. But the production model is only reason number 10. What actually set the stage for all of it was something that happened before any chart positions, before any stadium shows, something that unfolded in real time on national television and left a mark that still defines how people understand this group today. Number 9. Born on Camera. The survival show format has been a fixture of K-pop for over a decade. Audiences have watched groups form through elimination rounds, voting systems, and dramatic reveals so many times that the formula is almost reflexively predictable. Trainees compete, fans vote, a group debuts, and the show ends. What happened with Stray Kids in 2017 followed that surface structure, but deviated from it in ways that would turn out to matter significantly for everything that came after. The Mnet reality series titled Stray Kids began airing on January 13, 2017.
At the time, JYP Entertainment had a clear commercial rationale for the format. It generated audience investment before a single official release, built name recognition, and gave the label real-time market data about which personalities resonated with viewers. These are straightforward business reasons, and they're not unique to JYP. What was distinctive about the Stray Kids show was what it chose to put on screen. Rather than centering competition primarily around performance evaluations and elimination drama, the show placed a significant portion of its focus on the creative process, specifically on whether this particular group of trainees could develop and defend their own artistic identity under pressure. That framing set up a different kind of audience relationship from the start. Viewers weren't just watching young people audition, they were watching a creative argument being made in real time, an argument about whether a group built around self-production was a viable concept, or a gamble that JYP would ultimately recalibrate before debut. The tension was genuine because the outcome was genuinely uncertain. JYP's own team evaluated the trainees throughout the show, and the criteria weren't purely about vocal technique or visual presentation. They included questions about whether these trainees could produce music that was coherent, marketable, and authentically theirs. Asking those questions on camera in front of an audience made the stakes visible in a way that pure performance competitions typically don't. The group that emerged from the show and went on to debut on March 25, 2018, consisted of 9 members: Bangchan, Woojin, Lino, Changbin, Hyunjin, Han, Felix, Sungmin, and IN. Several trainees who appeared on the show did not make the final lineup, which meant the eliminations were real rather than ceremonial, a fact that shaped how the debut lineup was received. The members who made it through weren't handed a group they'd been assigned to. They had been seen competing for their place in it, which gave their eventual presence on stage a weight that manufactured groups simply don't carry. Audiences had watched them work for it. This matters more than it might initially appear. In most K-pop debuts, the audience's first contact with a group is a polished music video and a rehearsed press run. The members are introduced already fully formed as public personas, with little visibility into the period that preceded their debut. Stray Kids' audience, from day one of the actual debut, already had months of footage, personality, conflict, creative struggle, and individual character to draw from. They had watched Bangchan take on leadership responsibilities in an environment where the pressure was documented and unscripted. They had watched Han struggle visibly with his own confidence. They had watched Felix navigate the challenge of performing in a language he hadn't grown up speaking natively, having grown up in Sydney, Australia, where Korean was not his primary language in daily life. These weren't manufactured backstories inserted into a press kit. They were things audiences had watched unfold, episode by episode, before the debut even happened. The show also introduced the group's concept, self-produced music by young artists, in a context that gave it credibility rather than just assertion. When a label says a group writes their own music, it's easy to be skeptical, because the history of that claim in pop music is complicated. When an audience watches a group of teenagers argue about chord progressions, rewrite lyrics under a deadline, and defend their creative choices to a panel of industry professionals on a reality show, skepticism becomes harder to sustain. The transparency of the process served as its own form of authentication. There's also a structural point worth noting about the name. Stray Kids, the name of the group, was also the name of the survival show. That overlap is unusual. It means that anyone who searches for the group name online will find among the first results the show that documented their formation. The origin story is baked into the search architecture around the group. New fans who discover Stray Kids through a viral performance clip or a recommended video will inevitably encounter the survival show footage as part of their discovery process, which means the foundational audience relationship, the one built on watching real struggle and real creative development, is continuously being reconstructed with every new fan who joins the fandom. The survival show didn't just build an initial audience, it built a mechanism for replicating that audience's emotional entry point indefinitely. The show also established early what kind of group this was going to be. Bang Chan's composure under pressure, Han's emotional transparency, Changbin's intensity, Hyunjin's visual presence and creative instincts, Felix's physical commitment and performance quality despite his language barrier, these were all visible before debut, which meant fans arrived at the debut with already formed relationships to individual members. That's a significant head start. Most groups spend the first 1 to 2 years of their career building that level of individual recognition within their fandom. Stray Kids had it before their first official album dropped. In October 2019, Woojin departed from the group, and Stray Kids have continued as 8 members since then. That transition and how the remaining members and the fandom navigated it is a separate chapter, but it's worth noting that the group's identity was resilient enough to absorb that change without a significant disruption to their growth trajectory. Part of that resilience came from the foundation the survival show built, an audience that understood the group as a creative unit first, rather than as a fixed lineup of faces. The survival show gave Stray Kids something most groups never get, a documented origin with genuine emotional stakes, available for any new fan to watch at any time. The debut was almost inevitable after that. But what came immediately after the debut, and what Stray Kids chose to do with their first real moment of creative freedom, was anything but predictable.
Number 8. The alchemy of noise. When analyzing the modern music industry, it is easy to assume that commercial success requires a degree of sonic compromise, but Stray Kids achieved their global breakthrough by deliberately making their music louder, more aggressive, and far more experimental. In the late 2010s, mainstream K-pop was dominated by polished, highly melodic, and structurally predictable pop tracks designed to appeal to the broadest possible audience. Stray Kids chose a different path, pioneering a sound that critics and casual observers initially dismissed as noise music, a derogatory term used to describe their reliance on industrial beats, heavy distortion, and unconventional song structures. Rather than retreating from this criticism or softening their style to fit commercial radio templates, the group leaned directly into the label, reclaiming it as a badge of honor and using it to define an entirely new subgenre of music. This journey began during their pre-debut days with the release of Elevator in 2017, a dark electronic track that established their thematic focus on struggle and perseverance. Their early trilogy of albums, including I Am Not, I Am Who, and I Am You, laid the groundwork for this sonic defiance by exploring deep personal anxieties and identity crises over heavy, distorted bass lines. In March 2019, they pushed the boundaries further with Miro, a high-tempo anthem that blended house music, stadium chants, and animal sound effects to secure their very first music show win on M Countdown. They continued this sonic exploration with the release of Side Effects later that year, a track that incorporated elements of dark psytrance and vocalized panic attacks, polarizing listeners with its abrasive nature, but proving their refusal to play it safe. This track was highly experimental, utilizing a tempo of 140 beats per minute and featuring spoken-word warning messages that simulated psychological distress. This bold creative stance reached its absolute zenith in June 2020 with the release of their first studio album, Go Live, and its revolutionary lead single, God's Menu.
The history of this track is a perfect illustration of the group's artistic conviction. They had already completed and finalized a different song as their scheduled title track, but when the producing trio 3RACHA created God's Menu in their studio, the members recognized that this new song represented the raw, unfiltered essence of Stray Kids. Bang Chan took the track directly to JYP Entertainment's executive board, advocating passionately for discarding their previous plans and staking their entire comeback on this aggressive, untested sound. The label agreed to the change, a decision that carried immense financial and reputational risk, but ultimately paid off by redefining the group's trajectory. God's Menu is built around a heavy, metallic trap beat that incorporates actual clanging kitchen sounds, complex synthesizer arrangements, and a structure that ignores traditional verse-chorus formulas in favor of a relentless, escalating energy. The lyrics use cooking as a brilliant extended metaphor for their music production process, asserting that they are culinary masters preparing a dish so unique and intense that it cannot be replicated elsewhere. Felix's iconic ultra-deep delivery of the line, "Cookin' like a chef, I'm a 5-star Michelin," instantly became a defining moment in modern K-pop history, demonstrating how the group successfully leveraged their unique vocal assets to create memorable sonic signatures. The release of God's Menu did not just improve their chart positions, it fundamentally altered how the global music community perceived them. The music video for the track became their first to surpass 100 million views on YouTube on August 27, 2020, marking a critical transition in their digital reach. By consistently delivering these high-concept, boundary-pushing releases, Stray Kids proved that their early experimentation was not a phase, but the foundation of a highly deliberate artistic philosophy. When they released their second studio album, No Easy, in August 2021, featuring the lead single Thunderous, they combined modern hip-hop and electronic drops with traditional Korean brass and percussion instruments like the taepyeong-so and kwangwari. This fusion of cultural heritage and futuristic production demonstrated that their noise was actually a sophisticated, highly calculated form of sonic alchemy. The commercial response to this uncompromising direction was historic. No Easy became JYP Entertainment's first million-selling album, a milestone that verified the immense purchasing power of a global fanbase attracted specifically to their unique style. By creating a sound that was dense, theatrical, and rich with unexpected transitions, Stray Kids offered an alternative to the sanitized pop music that filled the airwaves. Their subsequent releases, such as Maniac in 2022 and S-Class in 2023, continued to double down on these production principles, utilizing complex vocal layering, unexpected tempo changes, and intense EDM drops that made their music feel alive and unpredictable. Their global impact was further cemented when S-Class won the Best K-pop Award at the 2023 MTV Video Music Awards, a ceremony where they also performed the song live, showcasing their intense choreography to a mainstream Western television audience. To match these intense auditory experiences, their choreographies became notoriously demanding, requiring extreme physical stamina, synchronization, and expressive acting that elevated their live performances to high-energy spectacles. The emotional weight of this journey lies in the validation of their independence. They did not succeed by conforming to the industry, but by forcing the industry to adapt to them. For the members, every track they produce is a testament to their survival in a system that often prioritizes conformity over individuality. For the fans, known as Stay, this sonic identity is not just something to listen to, it's a shared culture, a mutual agreement that being different, loud, and unapologetically oneself is a strength. The global rise of Stray Kids is inseparable from this sonic image, proving that in a world where trends are constantly copied and pasted, authenticity remains the most valuable asset of all. By building a discography that is as physically intense as it is emotionally honest, they created a sonic universe that continues to attract millions of listeners who crave something more than simple escapism, establishing a foundation that would allow them to conquer the international music charts on a scale that few could have ever anticipated. But as their sonic signature conquered streaming platforms, it was another unique cross-cultural asset that bridged the gap between their Korean roots and the global mainstream, unlocking a massive audience that traditional promotion could never reach.
Number 7. The native translators. Historically, one of the most significant barriers preventing K-pop artists from achieving deep, sustained integration into Western music markets has been the language barrier. While the global appeal of the genre is rooted in its visual production, choreography, and sonic energy, the long-term retention of a fan base requires a level of personal connection that is difficult to establish through translation apps, subtitles, and third-party interpreters. Stray Kids sidestepped this structural limitation entirely by launching with an organic, built-in cultural bridge, 2 native English-speaking members born and raised in Sydney, Australia. Bang Chan and Felix did not simply learn English to facilitate foreign press junkets. They grew up immersed in the linguistic and cultural realities of the English-speaking world, which fundamentally altered how the group communicated with their global audience from the very beginning of their career. Bang Chan spent his formative years in Australia before moving to South Korea in 2010 to begin his trainee period, giving him a unique dual perspective that allowed him to navigate both the strict, hierarchical norms of the Korean entertainment industry and the more casual, direct communication style favored by Western audiences. Felix, whose Korean name is Lee Young-bok, lived in Australia until he was scouted by JYP Entertainment in 2016, arriving in Korea with very limited Korean language skills, a vulnerability that was documented during the group's survival show. This specific dynamic meant that Felix experienced firsthand the difficulty of navigating a foreign culture and language, a struggle that mirrored the experience of many international fans who were trying to engage with K-pop without speaking Korean. By having these 2 members act as cultural translators, Stray Kids established a direct, unfiltered channel of communication that bypasses the sterile, heavily moderated PR channels typical of the industry. The most prominent manifestation of this direct channel was Chan's Room, a weekly live broadcast hosted by Bang Chan that ran for over 4 years, beginning in January 2019 and concluding in May 2023 with its 208th episode. Unlike standard agency-mandated live streams, which are often scripted or tightly monitored, Chan's Room was designed as an informal, late-night music session where Bang Chan spoke directly to viewers, alternating fluidly between Korean and English without the need for translation. When the V Live platform was shut down, the group migrated this broadcast to YouTube, showing their commitment to maintaining this digital sanctuary. He used the platform to share music recommendations from artists worldwide, discuss his creative process, and address the personal difficulties and anxieties shared by viewers in the chat room. The emotional weight of this broadcast was immense. For international fans, it was a rare space where a prominent K-pop artist spoke to them in their native language in real time, validating their struggles and offering a sense of stability that went beyond typical idol-fan interactions. Furthermore, Felix's natural Australian accent and exceptionally deep vocal range became a viral phenomenon across short-form video platforms like TikTok, using millions of non-K-pop listeners to the group through casual, humorous audio clips and performance edits. His famous deep-toned lines in songs like Maniac and God's Menu became massive trending sounds on TikTok, used in hundreds of thousands of user-generated videos outside the K-pop fandom. This digital word-of-mouth marketing cost the agency nothing but yielded massive returns in audience growth.
The practical benefits of this linguistic fluency are visible in how the group conducts international promotions. When appearing on Western media outlets such as The Zach Sang Show, Billboard, or Teen Vogue, Stray Kids do not require translators to facilitate the conversation. Bangchan and Felix take the lead, answering complex questions about their music theory, artistic choices, and personal lives with ease, while also helping translate and involve the other members, such as Singmin, who has worked consistently to develop his own English fluency. This creates a natural conversational flow that makes the group highly appealing to Western journalists and casual viewers who might otherwise find translated interviews difficult to engage with. The ease of communication also extends to their live performances at major international music festivals. In July 2023, Stray Kids made history as the first K-pop group to headline Lollapalooza Paris, performing to a crowd of over 60,000 attendees, and later headlined BST Hyde Park in London and Lollapalooza Chicago in 2024. During these landmark performances, the members were able to command the massive, diverse crowds directly from the stage, bantering, giving speeches, and directing crowd movements in fluent English, which created a shared festival experience that felt organic rather than rehearsed. This festival presence did not just display their performance capabilities, it exposed their music to traditional festival goers who had previously never listened to Korean music, generating a wave of new fans who were won over by the sheer energy of their live show and the ease with which the members connected with the audience. The group has also actively integrated their multilingual identity into their commercial releases, regularly recording English versions of their major title tracks like Double Knot, Levanter, and Slump to make their lyricism more accessible to Western radio and listeners. Having native speakers in the recording booth ensures that these English adaptations maintain their rhythmic flow and emotional resonance without the awkward phrasing that sometimes plagues translated pop music. This cross-cultural accessibility has transformed the Stray Kids fandom into a truly global community, where international fans feel an equal sense of ownership and connection to the group's journey. This connection is embedded in the very identity of the fandom name, Stay, which was introduced in August 2018 with the explanation that the letter R in Stray represents the reason why the fans stay by the group's side. By removing the distance that language so often creates, Bangchan and Felix transformed Stray Kids from a foreign entertainment export into a localized, accessible presence in the lives of millions of listeners. This linguistic foundation allowed the group to build a massive digital empire, but as their online presence expanded, it became clear that their growth was also being driven by a highly calculated content strategy that kept fans engaged every single day of the year, transforming casual listeners into dedicated advocates who would support them across every platform, starting with a relentless release schedule of behind-the-scenes videos that turned their music production process into a compelling digital narrative.
Number 6. The content machine. In the modern entertainment landscape, the traditional model of a music group releasing an album, doing a brief promotional run on television, and then disappearing for months of preparation is no longer sufficient to sustain rapid global growth. To maintain momentum in a highly saturated digital economy, a group must function as a continuous, year-round media outlet, transforming their daily lives and creative processes into a steady stream of narrative content. Stray Kids mastered this digital engine early in their career, constructing a massive, multi-tiered content ecosystem that ensures fans are engaged nearly every single day of the year, regardless of whether the group is actively promoting a new album. This relentless output is not accidental. It is supported by a structural reorganization within their agency, JYP Entertainment, which in 2018 transitioned to a specialized division system. Under this model, Stray Kids are managed exclusively by Division 1, a dedicated team of creative directors, videographers, and coordinators whose sole focus is the production, marketing, and content generation for this single group, allowing for a level of speed and volume of content that traditional agency structures cannot match. The foundation of this digital ecosystem is built on absolute creative transparency, most notably through their album documentary series known as Intro. Before almost every major album release, the group uploads these multi-part mini-documentaries that show the exact steps of their creative process, including raw footage of 3RACHA writing lyrics, discussing production arrangements in their studio, and directing the other members during recording sessions. During the intro series for their 2023 album 5 Star, the documentary captured the members discussing the immense psychological pressure of following up their back-to-back Billboard 200 #1 albums, showing a level of vulnerability that mainstream stars rarely share with the public. The viewer sees the unpolished reality of music production, Han struggling to hit a specific vocal note, Changbin offering constructive criticism on delivery, and Bangchan sitting in front of his digital audio workstation for hours, adjusting tempo and arrangement details. This demystifies the polished facade of the K-pop industry, showing the physical and mental labor behind the final product and giving the audience a sense of intellectual investment in the music before they even hear it. In addition to these documentaries, the group maintains several ongoing behind-the-scenes series, such as SKZ Talker, which captures candid, unscripted backstage footage during music show promotions, concert tours, and award ceremonies, allowing fans to see the members' genuine interactions, anxiety, and physical exhaustion in real time. For variety content, the group launched SKZ Code in 2021, a highly structured comedic variety show where the members participate in games, travel diaries, and role-playing challenges, highlighting their personal chemistry and individual character traits, such as Lino's dry humor, Sangmin's mischievous personality, and the protective dynamic the older members display toward the youngest member, IN. These episodes are produced with high production values, featuring detailed subtitles and editing styles that highlight the members' internal jokes, making the series highly rewatchable for dedicated fans. However, what truly distinguishes Stray Kids' content strategy from their peers is their commitment to releasing free, non-commercial artistic content through their SKZ Record and SKZ Player series on YouTube. Launched in 2020, these platforms allow individual members and subunits to release self-written solo songs, unit collaborations, vocal covers, and choreographed dance videos that are not part of any official album rollout or commercial promotion. For example, Hyunjin's self-choreographed performance video set to Sam Tiniz's Play with Fire became a viral sensation, accumulating tens of millions of views and establishing his reputation as a premier dancer, while Sangmin regularly uploads vocal covers of Korean indie ballads to showcase his technical vocal development. The series also birthed high-impact unit videos like Bangchan and Hyunjin's Red Lights, a self-written track that explored themes of obsession and creativity, which went viral and accumulated millions of streams despite not receiving any mainstream radio promotion. Because these releases are not monetized or sold as physical products, they function as a pure demonstration of artistic growth and appreciation for their fanbase, reinforcing the narrative that the members are active creators who make music because they love the craft, not just because they are contractually obligated to do so. The emotional weight of this constant exposure is profound. When fans watch a group struggle through creative blocks, practice choreography until they are physically spent, and share their vulnerabilities in weekly vlogs, the distance between the artist and the audience disappears.
This sense of closeness is further amplified by their daily use of direct messaging apps like Bubble, where the members send personal text messages, photos, and voice notes directly to subscribers, creating a simulated direct conversation that runs parallel to their official video releases. The success of the group becomes a shared victory. When Stray Kids won their first Daesung, or Grand Prize, at the Asia Artists Awards in 2021, or when they filled their first stadium on their second world tour, Maniac, the fans didn't just see a successful group on stage. They remembered the footage of those same members years ago, writing music in tiny trainee rooms, doubting their own path, and fighting for their creative independence. This narrative continuity turns casual listeners into highly dedicated advocates who feel personally responsible for the group's success, translating directly into high album sales and coordinated streaming campaigns that drive the group higher on global charts. By maintaining this constant loop of documentation, variety entertainment, and free artistic output, Stray Kids built a self-sustaining community that thrives independently of traditional media gatekeepers. This digital community doesn't just consume content passively, they actively analyze it, creating fan translations, video analyses, and compilation clips that further expand the group's digital footprint across the internet. The content machine kept the audience constantly engaged, but as their online community swelled into millions of active users, it became clear that this digital engagement was preparing the ground for an unprecedented breakthrough on the world's most competitive physical music charts, where their unique business model would soon challenge the established royalty of the Western pop industry.
Number 5. The Billboard Conquest. To understand the scale of Stray Kids' modern global footprint, one must look past simple social media metrics and examine the concrete, verified data of the United States music charts, where they achieved a charting run that placed them in the company of the most successful pop icons in history. For decades, the Billboard 200 album chart has served as the definitive measure of an artist's commercial relevance in the world's largest music market. Historically, international acts, particularly those performing primarily in languages other than English, struggled to make a significant impact on this chart due to limited radio airplay and fractured distribution networks. Stray Kids systematically dismantled this barrier through a combination of grassroots fan-base mobilization, highly collectible physical product design, and a critical strategic partnership. In February 2020, JYP Entertainment signed a label partnership with Republic Records, one of the most powerful music entities in the United States, and subsequently expanded this agreement in February 2022. This deal was not a superficial branding exercise. It resolved the logistical bottleneck that had historically limited K-pop physical sales in North America by securing direct distribution channels that placed Stray Kids albums on the shelves of major retail corporations like Target, Walmart, and Barnes & Noble, as well as making them easily available on Amazon. The impact of this distribution network was immediate and historic. In March 2022, their EP Ordinary debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, selling approximately 110,000 equivalent album units in its first week, making them only the third Korean group in history to top the chart. Rather than treating this as a temporary peak, the group accelerated their performance. In October 2022, their next release, Maxident, also debuted at number 1 with 117,000 units. In June 2023, their third studio album, 5 Star, debuted at number 1 with a massive 249,000 units, followed in November 2023 by Rockstar, which debuted at number 1 with 224,000 units. By the time they released their EP 8 in July 2024, which also debuted at number 1 with 232,000 units, Stray Kids had secured 5 consecutive number 1 debuts on the Billboard 200. This achievement made them the first group in the history of the chart to have their first 5 charting entries debut at the top spot, a historic record that matched the legendary run of American rapper DMX in the late 1990s and early 2000s.
To further demonstrate their global market dominance, 5-Star broke the industry record for the highest stock pre-orders in K-pop history in June 2023, surpassing 5.13 million copies, a figure that showed retailers worldwide were preparing for unprecedented retail demand. This physical success soon spilled over into the singles charts, which are notoriously difficult for international acts to crack due to the heavy reliance on streaming and US radio play. In November 2023, their track La 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 became their first entry on the Billboard 100 chart, debuting at number 90, which was followed in July 2024 by Chuck Chuck Boom, which debuted at a career-high number 49 on the Hot 100. The mechanics of these sales are deeply rooted in the changing nature of music consumption. In an era dominated by digital streaming, where physical CDs have been largely phased out by Western artists, Stray Kids turned the physical album into a highly coveted collectible art piece. Their albums are not packaged in standard plastic jewel cases. Instead, they are designed as elaborate thematic boxes containing photo books exceeding 80 pages, individual lyric booklets, sticker sheets, mini posters, and randomly selected photo cards of individual members. Because these photo cards are distributed randomly, the physical product functions as a collectible item, encouraging fans to purchase multiple versions of the same album to collect their favorite members' cards or trade them within the community. This gamified collector culture, combined with the extreme organization of their global fanbase, Stay, drives unprecedented first-week sales figures that outpace many of the biggest names in Western pop music. To ensure maximum compliance with chart regulations, the group and their distribution partners carefully structure their release packages to meet Billboard's strict eligibility guidelines. By offering distinct Target-exclusive editions, individual member versions, and limited edition runs, they provide a variety of physical products that cater to both casual listeners who want a single souvenir and hardcore collectors who aim to own the entire set. Critics often try to downplay these achievements by pointing to the multiple physical versions available, but this criticism ignores the basic economic reality. Consumers must still be willing to spend actual capital to purchase these products. The emotional weight of this chart dominance is profound for the members, who began their careers as self-produced underdogs whose loud, experimental style was deemed unsuitable for the mainstream. Topping the charts 5 consecutive times did not just validate their music, it proved that their audience was not a passive digital presence, but an intensely committed, organized, and financially supportive community. This level of commercial power transformed the group from a niche international export into a major player in the global music industry, demanding the attention of festival organizers, fashion houses, and stadium bookers. The demand indicated by these charts was directly mirrored in the ticketing market for their live performances. During their second world tour, Maniac, which spanned from April 2022 to April 2023, the group transitioned from playing theaters and convention centers to selling out major arenas and stadiums across Asia, North America, and Australia. They concluded the tour with 2 massive sold-out nights at the BMO Stadium in Los Angeles, performing to over 40,000 fans and proving that their massive sales figures were backed by a highly active, real-world audience. The massive physical sales on Billboard served as a reliable leading indicator of their real-world drawing power, showing that the millions of fans buying their albums in target markets were more than ready to transition from digital consumers to live audience members, setting the stage for a massive expansion of their live concert business that would take them into the world's most iconic sports arenas. But while stadium tours and chart positions validated their commercial appeal, it was their highly synchronized, physically grueling performances on stage that turned every concert into an athletic demonstration of endurance. Number 4. The athleticism of performance. In the modern pop music ecosystem, visual presentation is just as critical as sonic production, and Stray Kids established themselves as one of the most formidable live acts in the world by treating choreography not as a simple routine, but as an athletic demonstration of physical endurance. While many contemporary pop artists rely on backing tracks, lip-syncing, and simplified movements to conserve energy during long concert sets, Stray Kids made a deliberate decision to prioritize raw, high-energy live performance, executing some of the most complex and physically demanding choreography in the industry while singing live. The engine behind this performance standard is the group's dance subunit, known as Dance Racha, composed of Lee No, Hyunjin, and Felix. Each of these three members brings a distinct technical background and performance philosophy that, when combined, elevates the group's collective stage presence. Lee No, whose real name is Lee Min-ho, was a professional dancer in the underground scene and served as a backup dancer for BTS during their Wings tour in 2017 before joining JYP Entertainment. This professional experience gave him an advanced technical vocabulary and a deep understanding of stage geometry. He functions as the group's dance leader, running rehearsals, refining spacing, and spotting minor sync issues that typical viewers would miss. Hyunjin, born Hwang Hyunjin, entered the agency with no formal dance training and was initially criticized for his lack of rhythm, a critique that motivated him to spend years practicing late into the night. This intense work ethic transformed him into the group's main dancer, celebrated for his highly expressive, theatrical performance style and sharp physical control. Felix, whose taekwondo background in Australia provided him with exceptional core strength and balance, contributes explosive power and agility, anchoring the group's most intense dance breaks with rapid, high-impact movements. The visual storytelling of their performances is exemplified by the choreography of God's Menu in 2020, which incorporated literal cooking movements such as throwing seasoning, slicing ingredients, and stirring a boiling pot into the dance steps. This clever integration of the song's thematic concept made the dance highly recognizable and sparked a massive viral challenge across social media platforms, with fans and other musicians attempting to replicate the movements. The complexity of the choreography they execute is also visible in tracks like Double Knot, Thunderous, and S-Class. The routine for S-Class, released in 2023, is characterized by exceptionally fast, intricate footwork and sudden changes in body levels, requiring the members to drop to the floor and spring back up in fractions of a second. This level of synchronization requires hundreds of hours of repetitive practice to build muscle memory, ensuring that all 8 members move as a single physical entity. This level of performance consistency is not limited to the main dancers. The vocalists, Sangmin and IN, along with the rappers, must maintain the same speed, angles, and physical endurance as the dance line during group formations. This requires an immense amount of individual training, as members like Sangmin, who primarily focus on vocal performance, must work twice as hard to match the technical execution of a trained professional like Lee No. This synchronization they achieve is the result of this group-wide dedication, where no member allows themselves to be the weak link on stage. The emotional weight of this collective effort is visible in their behind-the-scenes practice videos, where they can be seen running the same 3-minute routine repeatedly for hours, analyzing their body angles on playback monitors to ensure that their hands, feet, and heads are aligned at the exact same degree. The physical toll of this performance style is real and documented. In February 2022, JYP Entertainment announced that Felix had been diagnosed with an intervertebral disc herniation, forcing him to limit his physical movements during the group's fan meetings to prevent permanent injury. The emotional weight of this period was significant for the group and their fans, as they watched Felix navigate the frustration of being unable to participate fully in the routines he had helped popularize. His subsequent recovery and return to full performance intensity served as a powerful testament to the group's commitment to their craft.
This commitment is further demonstrated by their insistence on using live vocals. During their stadium shows, such as their performances at the BMO Stadium in Los Angeles, the members use handheld microphones and high-quality headsets to deliver their vocal lines over the live band, rejecting the industry trend of complete lip-syncing. The stamina required to control one's breathing, hit precise pitch levels, and deliver rapid-fire rap sequences while executing backflips, synchronized jumps, and floor choreography is comparable to the physical exertion of professional athletes. Furthermore, their performance capability was showcased on a global stage in September 2023 at the MTV Video Music Awards in New Jersey, where they perform S-Class live. Their high-intensity routine and flawless execution caught the attention of the mainstream American music industry, with clips of high-profile celebrities in the audience reacting with visible amazement going viral online, validating their performance standard in front of a Western television audience of millions. Fans, known as Stay, recognize this effort, and it builds a level of respect that is rare in pop music. When a member is visibly exhausted on stage, drenched in sweat, yet still refuses to drop the microphone or skip a step, the audience registers that they are witnessing a genuine, uncompromised artistic effort. This reputation for performance excellence has made their concerts a major global draw, ensuring that their tours sell out within minutes of tickets going on sale. By refusing to compromise on the physical reality of their performances, Stray Kids proved that they are not just studio artists, but masters of the stage who can command any audience through sheer physical presence. This dedication to live performance became a major catalyst for their growth, but as their reputation as live performers spread, it caught the attention of an entirely different industry, leading to a series of high-profile collaborations that would take them from the concert stage to the front rows of global high fashion.
Number 3. The luxury icons. In the modern luxury retail sector, the relationship between high fashion houses and musical artists has evolved from simple product placement to deep multi-million-dollar brand integrations, and Stray Kids emerged as one of the most sought-after collectives in the global fashion calendar. Luxury brands no longer rely solely on traditional Hollywood actors to anchor their marketing campaigns. Instead, they seek the massive, hyper-engaged digital audiences commanded by K-pop stars, whose presence at runway shows can instantly crash websites, dominate social media trending topics, and generate record-breaking earned media value. Stray Kids' transition from streetwear-clad musicians to high-fashion muses was not a gradual shift, but a coordinated takeover that culminated in a historic milestone in May 2024. During the prestigious Met Gala in New York City, Stray Kids made history as the first entire K-pop group to attend the event together, walking the red carpet as guests of American designer Tommy Hilfiger. Dressed in custom-tailored suits that incorporated the brand's signature red, white, and blue color palette, the members staged a synchronized reveal on the museum steps, removing their structured wool coats to display the intricate tailoring underneath, an appearance that dominated fashion headlines and generated millions of dollars in media exposure for the label. To coordinate a group appearance of this scale at the Met Gala, Tommy Hilfiger's atelier spent months designing and tailoring custom looks that aligned with the night's Garden of Time dress code, while maintaining the group's cohesive identity. The designs blended classic American cool style with modern tailoring, featuring rich navy, burgundy, and cream colors, accented by custom gold buttons and floral lapel pins. In Paris, Felix's historic runway debut for Louis Vuitton's Women's Fall-Winter 2024 show was staged at the historic Cour Carrée of the Louvre Museum. Walking under the creative direction of Nicolas Guicher, Felix was positioned in the middle of the show lineup wearing a futuristic silver-embroidered top, white paneled trousers, and matching leather boots. His presence on the runway alongside professional models and Squid Game star Jung Ho-yeon was a landmark crossover event, highlighting the fashion house's desire to merge contemporary pop culture with haute couture. This group appearance was built upon a series of individual ambassadorships that had already established the members as solo forces in Paris, Milan, and Seoul. In July 2023, Italian fashion house Versace named Hyunjin as their global brand ambassador, with creative director Donatella Versace publicly praising his confidence, artistic energy, and bold personal style. Hyunjin's campaigns for Versace were photographed by acclaimed fashion photographer Angelo Panetta, placing him in clean, classic portrait frames that highlighted the brand's holiday 2023 collection. The imagery featured Hyunjin in tailored Barocco print jackets and silk shirts, and it was displayed on massive billboard installations in cities ranging from New York and Los Angeles to Tokyo and Milan, establishing him as a global household face. The other members of the group also secured significant high-fashion alignments. Bang Chan built a close relationship with Fendi, attending their menswear shows in Milan. Lee No became associated with Gucci, attending the Gucci Cruise Show in Seoul. IN was invited to Paris by Alexander McQueen. Sengmin attended the Loewe Show in Paris, and Han was dressed by Balmain. When Lee No arrived at the Gucci events, or when Sengmin attended the Loewe Fall-Winter Show in Paris, thousands of fans blocked the surrounding streets hours in advance, creating massive logistical challenges for local security and demonstrating to fashion executives that their influence was not just a digital metric, but a physical force capable of mobilizing crowds in foreign capitals. These partnerships are not merely vanity projects, they are driven by measurable financial data. According to fashion analytics firms like Lefty and Launch Metrics, the earned media value generated by Stray Kids members during Fashion Week regularly tops the industry, with a single social media post from Hyunjin or Felix generating upwards of $4 million in value for their respective brands. This commercial influence has transformed how the group is integrated into the global entertainment industry, proving that their appeal extends far beyond the traditional boundaries of fandoms. The emotional weight of this development is significant for an audience that has supported them from their days as trainees. Seeing the members, who once trained in worn-out clothes and struggled to pay for basic necessities, being flown to European capitals on private jets and welcomed as honored guests by heritage designers, represents the ultimate level of commercial validation. It shows that the group's unique, unconventional identity, once considered too niche for the general public, has been fully accepted and celebrated by the global elite. This fashion footprint solidified their status as global icons, but their ultimate test lay in a highly selective, competitive arena, where their creative integrity and survival instinct would be pushed to the limit in front of the entire K-pop industry, proving once and for all that they were not just a commercial success, but the undisputed leaders of their generation.
Number 2, the war for the crown. In the highly competitive K-pop industry, a group's survival depends on their ability to continually prove their artistic superiority under direct comparison with their peers. This pressure culminated in the spring of 2021 when Stray Kids agreed to participate in Mnet's television competition, Kingdom: Legendary War. Airing from April 1 to June 3, 2021, the show was a high-stakes arena featuring 6 of the most prominent male groups in the industry: Stray Kids, ATEEZ, The Boys, iKON, SF9, and BTOB. Unlike standard music broadcast programs where artists perform brief promotional versions of their singles, Kingdom required the groups to design, arrange, and execute massive theatrical stage productions across multiple thematic rounds, placing an immense burden on their creative and physical resources.
The stakes were incredibly high. A poor performance on national television could damage a group's reputation, while a standout showing could launch them into the absolute elite tier of the industry. Stray Kids entered the competition under severe psychological strain, as member Hyunjin was forced into a temporary hiatus just before filming began due to public controversy. This meant that the remaining 7 members had to radically restructure their choreographies, line distributions, and stage formations under tight weekly deadlines, leaving no room for error. Rather than scale back their ambitions, they chose to double down on theatrical complexity. In the introductory round, they performed a modified version of Miro that incorporated martial arts acrobatics and a giant mechanical wolf head, securing first place in the initial rankings. In the cover round, they faced the daunting challenge of performing a song by BTOB, a group widely regarded as the premier vocal act in K-pop. Knowing that their aggressive rap style was their primary strength, they chose BTOB's emotionally intense track, I'll Be Your Man, rearranging it to highlight their own vocal development. For the BTOB cover, because BTOB's discography is heavily vocal-centric, Changbin and Han had to write entirely new rap verses that ran counter to the original ballad structure, weaving intense, fast-tempo lyrics over a dramatic classical arrangement. This creative choice kept their signature identity intact while respecting the source material, a balance that earned high marks from the panel of judges. Sungmin's vocal performance featured powerful, sustained high notes in the climax of the song, defying the industry prejudice that Stray Kids lacked vocal depth, and earning praise from BTOB themselves. Their most culturally significant moment arrived during the third round, where they performed a mashup of their hit God's Menu and Blackpink's Do 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 Do. They designed the entire stage around a Deadpool theme, utilizing comic book aesthetics, physical props, and a direct fourth-wall-breaking monologue delivered by Felix that referenced the character's signature style. The performance was a global viral sensation, but its most unexpected result occurred off-screen. Canadian actor Ryan Reynolds noticed the performance on social media and publicly posted his support for the group. This initiated a digital friendship between Reynolds and Bang Chan, leading to the actor sending Bang Chan a signed Deadpool mask and receiving a bottle of aviation gin in return. This connection eventually yielded major commercial collaborations, including Stray Kids contributing the original song Slash to the soundtrack of the 2024 Marvel blockbuster Deadpool and Wolverine, and Reynolds appearing alongside co-star Hugh Jackman in the music video for their 2024 single Chick Chick Boom. During the Deadpool performance, the connection with Ryan Reynolds escalated quickly when the actor posted a photo on Twitter holding a signed Stray Kids album, accompanied by a caption asking for the group's autograph and declaring himself a new fan. This validation from a mainstream Hollywood star bridged the gap between K-pop and Western cinema, generating immense publicity. The voting system for Kingdom was highly structured, split into self-evaluations, evaluations by a panel of 30 industry experts, global fan voting via the Who's Fan mobile application, and digital performance metrics based on official performance video counts. While they faced strong competition in the expert evaluation rounds, Stray Kids consistently dominated the global fan voting and video view count categories, showing the massive size and coordination of their international fan base. The final round required the groups to release a new original song and perform it live on June 3, 2021. The physical demands of this final round were particularly severe. For the choreography of Wolfgang, the members had to spend weeks practicing crawling and shifting weight on all fours to mimic wolves, a grueling movement pattern that left many of them bruised and sore. On the live broadcast stage, this raw, animalistic performance displayed a level of theatrical commitment that set them apart from the more traditional dance routines of their competitors. The success of the stage was a direct result of their willingness to endure physical discomfort for their art, a quality that resonated deeply with the international audience voting on the mobile applications. When the final scores were calculated, Stray Kids emerged as the undisputed winners of the competition. The emotional weight of this victory was overwhelming for the members, who had spent weeks working under extreme exhaustion, constantly rewriting scripts and adjusting choreographies to accommodate their reduced lineup. Winning Kingdom was a definitive turning point in their career, transforming them from a successful young group into the acknowledged leaders of their generation. The momentum generated by the show carried directly into their next commercial release. Just 2 months later, in August 2021, they released their second studio album, No Easy. Driven by the massive influx of new fans who had discovered the group during the television competition, No Easy recorded over 1 million sales in its first week, becoming JYP Entertainment's first million-selling album and proving that their television victory was not just a temporary peak, but the launchpad for a new era of global dominance. Yet even as they conquered television networks and music charts, there was still one final foundational truth that separated Stray Kids from every other act in the music industry, a single driving force that explains why their growth shows no signs of slowing down.
Number 1, the chosen brotherhood. When you strip away the high-concept music videos, the global fashion sponsorships, the chart records, and the complex choreographies, the single most critical reason for Stray Kids' accelerating growth is a structural reality that is virtually unique in the modern K-pop industry. They were not assembled by corporate executives, but were hand-picked by their own leader. In the traditional Korean entertainment system, groups are almost always assembled through a top-down corporate methodology. A company's artists and repertoire department screens dozens of trainees, evaluates their vocal and dance metrics, analyzes their visual compatibility, and eventually builds a lineup designed to target specific market demographics. The members of these groups are, in essence, highly skilled co-workers who are thrown together by a corporate mandate and must learn to live and work together under intense public pressure. Stray Kids represents a radical departure from this established business model. During their survival show in 2017, JYP Entertainment founder Park Jin-won did not select the trainees himself. Instead, he tasked Bang Chan, who had spent 7 years training at the agency, with assembling his own team. Bang Chan selected the members based on his personal evaluation of their character, talent, and shared creative work ethic, choosing Han, Changbin, Lee No, Hyunjin, Felix, Sungmin, and IN. Because they were chosen by their leader rather than an administrative board, the group's foundational dynamic was built on mutual trust, personal loyalty, and a shared creative vision from the very beginning. The weight of this chosen brotherhood is rooted in the early guidance of Bang Chan, who took JY Park's words during the survival show to heart. Park had warned Chan that by choosing the team members himself, he took complete responsibility for their success or failure. This warning forged Chan's extreme protectiveness over the members, leading him to prioritize their emotional and physical well-being above all else. Over the years, the members have developed a flat, transparent system of conflict resolution, holding regular group discussions to resolve creative differences and personal frictions directly, rather than letting them build up, a system they have frequently credited in interviews as the secret to their long-term harmony. This organic origin story is not just a marketing narrative, it has practical, long-term consequences for the group's stability and growth. The most significant real-world evidence of this unique cohesion occurred in July 2024, when JYP Entertainment officially announced that all 8 members of Stray Kids had renewed their exclusive contracts with the agency ahead of their scheduled expiration date in early 2025.
In the K-pop industry, the 7-year mark, coinciding with the standard duration of initial artist contracts, is notoriously referred to as the 7-year jinx, a period when many successful groups disband, lose members to rival agencies, or enter prolonged legal disputes due to differing solo ambitions and financial disagreements. For an entire 8-member group to unanimously renew their contracts early without a single member departing or shifting focus to solo endeavors is an exceptionally rare achievement that demonstrated their absolute commitment to the group's long-term future. The financial implications of this unified decision were profound for JYP Entertainment. As one of the agency's primary revenue engines, the early renewal of Stray Kids contracts provided substantial market security, stabilizing the company's stock value and ensuring their global touring and release schedules could proceed without interruption for years to come. This corporate security exists because the members have worked to align their individual career goals with the group's collective progress, prioritizing team activities over individual solo deals. This early renewal sent a powerful signal to the global music market and their fan base, verifying that the group's internal alignment was completely stable and that their creative partnership remained highly productive. The emotional roots of this unity were established during their 2017 survival show, when 2 members, Lee and Felix, were temporarily eliminated by the agency. Rather than accepting the cuts, Bang Chan and the remaining members fought to keep the group intact, expressing a collective belief that the team could only succeed as a complete unit, a philosophy that eventually convinced the label to debut them as a whole. Following the departure of Woojin in 2019, the remaining 8 members solidified their commitment to the group, adopting the collective mindset of 8 or none. This mutual dependence is highly visible in their creative process. In the studio, 3RACHA does not produce tracks to highlight themselves. Instead, they write and arrange songs with a deep working knowledge of each member's vocal ranges, performance styles, and personal characters, ensuring that every release feels like a unified team effort where every member has a distinct, necessary role. This harmony translates directly to their performances, where their synchronization is not driven by fear of corporate reprimand, but by a mutual desire to support one another on stage. When a member is struggling or recovering from an injury, the rest of the group adjusts their spacing and vocal support seamlessly, demonstrating a level of empathy that can only exist in a group that chose to stand together. This lack of internal hierarchy and solo competition is highly unusual in a genre where individual members often compete for screen time, center positions, and solo endorsements. Because the members operate as a collective unit first, they are able to withstand the intense physical and psychological pressures of their physical global ascent without fracturing. For the fanbase, Stay, this authentic brotherhood is the most appealing aspect of the group. Fans don't have to worry about the group splitting apart due to internal conflicts or members leaving to pursue solo careers, a security that makes them highly willing to invest their time, energy, and financial resources into the group's long-term success. This trust creates a self-reinforcing loop of growth. As the group's bond remains unbreakable, the fandom's commitment deepens, driving their streaming numbers, physical sales, and stadium ticket demands higher with every subsequent release. Ultimately, Stray Kids' rise to the absolute peak of the global music industry is not a story of corporate engineering or luck. It is a story of a self-built family that decided to define their own sound, speak their own language, and control their own destiny, proving that in a highly manufactured industry, the most powerful engine of success is an authentic, chosen bond that refuses to break.